Hello, I'm Archbishop Christopher Coyne, and joining me now for Coffee with the Archbishop is Father Anthony Federico.
Good to be here with you.
Nice to be. And behind me, we got a new addition to the shelf, the Sacred Heart Superman.
Cool.
With these, he's a little stuffed toy. Maybe hand it on to
Your collection is growing.
It is. Baby Grugo, the Star Wars one, had to disappear for a little while.
Oh, he got demoted, yeah.
Well, because the Sacred Heart's there. And and this year we're also consecrating the United States to the Sacred Heart.
Praise God.
On the 250th anniversary. So,
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Happy Easter, that's right.
Yeah.
It was a real workout. Always, Holy Week and Triduum and all this other stuff like that. But to be able to now, in the glory of Easter, and to enjoy ourselves. But I want to talk, we talked before about Christmas traditions in our family, Easter Sunday traditions and all that, so I thought we'd talk about Easter traditions. But one of the ones, before we even get to Easter, though, was Palm Sunday. Mm-hmm. Because we'd all go to Mass on Palm Sunday. We'd all get our palms. And they always made the mistake of handing them out before Mass instead of get lit.
Yeah, because now the kid is going to be totally consumed.
Yeah, and I used to just kind of like my sister was there, I'd kind of like just brush her
in the
ear.
air, yeah. I've done
that. I was always jealous of the Italian kids who could sit there and weave it into a cross, the palm into a cross.
Yeah.
Was that like, could you guys do that?
I was totally incapable of it. My grandmother was like an expert, almost like the origami technique. They're brilliant, beautiful cross. But now my cousin Michelle, shout out to Michelle Viziello, she's now the one who beautifully folds the palms into the cross. I can't do it, so she does it for us.
She's the sensei of Palm Sun's cross.
She's the guru.
The guru of all that. So that, we'd have the celebrations during the year, during the week. And then when I growing up, we were all altar servers, and we'd go to Holy Thursday and Good Friday, and we always went. I started to go to Easter Vigil when I got a little bit older. We didn't go to Easter Vigil when we were kids.
Me neither.
Because we all went on Easter Sunday. And what my family used to do, my mother used to do, is we have pictures of every year that of our family. So starting with my brother Danny, and then my brother Terry, my brother Brian, and they would have an Easter picture. Mm-hmm. So that in our family history, you see the family growing, and you would see. Like when there was 5 of us, you'd see us lined up in front of the fireplace like this, and then there was 6, you'd see us again. So it'd be my brother Danny, my brother Terry, my brother Brian,
That's
me,
cool.
Patty, Maureen, and Anne Marie. But then when I got to be 12, all of a sudden, instead of going like this, it went whoop, and then down again, because I was taller than everybody else. So
but you got to stay in the age order.
You got to stay in the age order, so that they had to kind of figure that out.
Now,
but we all had our Easter clothes.
Did you do Easter egg hunt on Easter Sunday?
No, we didn't. Well, we didn't. I did, but I used to do it back in the when I was in the parish. I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
When I was my last parish assignment, but we didn't do Easter egg hunt. We had the Easter baskets. Mm-hmm. So each of us had a little basket with all of the peeps and the sugar and maybe a little toy or something like that.
Cadbury cream eggs.
Yeah,
those were my jam.
Yeah. I was always disappointed in the big Easter chocolate rabbit because it was hollow.
Yeah.
What's that about? I just, it's
put that thing down in 2 minutes.
And I remember we were complaining about it one time. My Aunt Barbara said to us, "That's so you'll remember the empty tomb." And we just said, that's just crazy. It's being cheap.
It's not a bad line, though.
So we started saying, "Your head's empty like the empty tomb."
Nice.
Kept picking at each other. So we always have a lot of laughs. But then we go to Grandma. So we go to my Aunt Barbara's, we go to my Aunt Mary's, but we always had big Easter gathering with all the kids. And on my grandmother's side of the family, there were 39 kids, grandchildren. Oof. So it could get a little bit chaotic. But some of them lived in North Dakota, some lived in Rochester, New York, so it wasn't always the numbers. And you'd have ham and you'd have lamb. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a lot of lamb because a lot of people didn't like the lamb, but we always had ham and lamb and cheesy potatoes and
nice.
all that stuff. So Sunday best, we always had new outfits. The girls had the coats, the woolen coats with the bonnets and big chubby faces.
Nice.
So
what about kids running around everywhere?
Oh yeah. And sometimes Easter was early. It was still snow on the ground.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of azalea bushes, those yellow flowering things. They grow like weeds. There were a couple in our house. So if the weather was good, we would often get pictures in front of the azaleas too.
It's a good photo op.
Now, I'll tell you the last thing I used to do, and then I'll ask you about what your family was like. But when I was in Westwood, Massachusetts, we had a huge conference room, which is just off the rectory. And that would be where we'd gather for Thanksgiving. The families would all gather for Thanksgiving. They'd gather for Easter. We could sit 30 people easily around it. And they would all come there. but I would do. We had little ones, so we'd have little Easter egg. But I'd do an adult Easter egg hunt all over the property.
Nice.
And one of the eggs had $100 in it, so it was pretty much hidden, very difficult.
Yeah.
And some of them had nothing in it. Some had a couple bucks. So my 25 and 30-year-old nieces and nephews got so aggressive that you would have thought they were tearing all over the place. It was the funniest thing
They're
to
little
see
kids
these
again, yeah.
adults, who have these jobs and everything, just like running all over the place trying to find these Easter
That's
eggs.
cute. I like that.
Yeah.
We did the Easter egg hunt in my family, and my dad every year, the Easter eggs had a quarter, 50 cents, some candy, but every year there was the golden egg. It was the only egg that was gold.
Okay.
And that had, a 10 or a 20 in it.
Cool.
And so over the years, my brothers and I started to strategize. We, disregarded any egg that wasn't gold. And we focused all of our hunting on trying to find the golden egg and let our sisters pick up, the quarters and the Tootsie Rolls. So
Now, what did you have an Easter breakfast and then you go to mass? Did you go to mass?
no,
We
it
went
was
to-
mass and then the big, spread. The cousins would come over. And the highlight of that every year for me was the pizza game, the ham pie, which is very important.
So what? So how? Most of we Italians know what it is. I know what it is because I have Italian friends. But what exactly is it?
Ham pie with egg, baked. I like a brownish burnt crust. And when I was in the parish, every year around this time, the parishioners knew that I liked the pizza game, which is very difficult to make and very expensive if you buy in the stores. And there's nothing like a homemade pizza game. My parishioners would bring me their huge ham pies every Easter. So I would bring them to my families, and my dad and I would just sit up all night trying a slice of this one, a slice of this one.
And then could
It
you
was
freeze any of
glorious.
it?
Yeah, and I would take it back here.
Yeah. So that's a lot of times because traditions like that come from the fact that during Lent, a lot of Lenten fest was from no flour or no ham, no eggs.
And now you can have it again.
Yeah, so they would bake it and it would be a big, huge celebration because for the first time in like 40 days you'd have
Oh, that makes sense.
this pastry, that you couldn't have but then they broke the rules like on St. Joseph's Day they had the pastries at St. Joseph's
Patrick's,
Day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one Easter Sunday, I had a memorable experience as an altar server. I was maybe like 10 years old, and I got invited to serve the Easter Sunday Mass. It was a big deal. So you wake up Sunday morning. Now, the Easter basket came, the Easter bunny was there, and I have my basket, and it's got all my favorite Cadbury cream eggs and Peeps and Twizzlers and all this good stuff. So for whatever reason, as we're leaving for Mass, I took a huge handful of my Easter candy, and I stuffed it in my pocket.
Broke the fast.
Now, I'm vested in my little white alb, and I'm processing down the aisle as the altar server. And as I genuflect, my pocket turns over, and all of my Easter candy spills out onto the front step of
The altar.
the sanctuary of the altar. Now, I'm mortified. The whole Mass, I'm just watching this pile of candy sit in front of the altar, and no one seems to notice but me. So I can't pay attention to the Mass. He is risen. Thank you, Jesus. But all I can focus on, I got to get to that pile and recover it so no one sees it. And then after Mass, a lady pulled me aside and said, that was a lot of candy. So someone did see it.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's a great story. But, those kind of memorable stories and faith traditions are just something that sustain us
Yeah.
in Catholicism. And it was, when I was in the parish, you were in the parish, by the time you got to the last Mass on Easter Sunday, it was like, okay, are you coming over for Easter dinner? Can I just have an Easter nap first?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a lot of guys that were feeling the same way, but they got out themselves. Well, happy Easter.
And to you, he is risen.
Yep. Happy Easter to all of you. I'm Archbishop Christopher Coyne, and you've been watching Coffee with the Archbishop.